Say hello to everyone. Uh, Senator Bernie Sanders is set to announce a federal jobs proposal that would guarantee age and health benefits to every American who wants or needs one, the Washington Post reports. The senator is still in the early stages of crafting the plan according to the Post, which would provide a job or required training for any American. Sanders' office has yet to release the details of the plan's funding, but previous large-scale projects proposed by the Vermont Progressive have involved ending tax breaks for the wealthiest Americans and large corporations. Um, so right after this was announced, you had a series of media hosts on MSNBC, on Fox News, on HLN, just every network you can think of on television who came to decry the plan and say that this is something which would cost billions of dollars. And the usual retort by many progressives or liberals is that even if it costs that much, you still spend, or rather, the federal government still spends trillions of dollars in these military conflicts that we found ourselves in continuously for decades at this point. Now, what is kind of amusing is that with a lot of the more conservative anchors and some of the establishment ones as well, they're trying to bite Sanders' head off along with that of Gillibrand and Booker, who join him, even though I, have my kind of differences with them for being establishment Democrats in backing this proposal, by saying, "Oh well, this is something that proves the party is going further left." Um, and I would make the argument that if you run, and they have this thing about only focusing on presidential elections, which uh, I would disagree with that. I've spoken about the importance of statewide elections, but nonetheless, they're using this to cement the idea that after the Democrats lost in this past presidential election, they're taking a step in the wrong direction by going further to the left. This is their view, not mine. But, my proposal would be if you know something doesn't work after you've tried it before, why wouldn't you switch over? Let me say hello to Angel. I'll start calling you Muniz after after a while. Um, and it's almost as if they become so convinced that the only way to really respond to these projects is to decry them, because one of the arguments they made was that this is something that they're just going to propose and won't actually get done. Well, it's kind of hard to get something on this large scale done when you don't have the White House. So that argument, though valid in terms of the current circumstance, is still one that can be applicable to any major proposal. If I, for example, was a member of the Republican Party, and I said, you know what, I want every single, I don't know, portion of welfare to just be completely removed from American society. Now, besides having people on television and on the internet call me a lunatic, if there is a Democrat in office, regardless of if they agree with my idea or not, they're going to be less likely to back it because I am of the opposing party. And that's something we play now all the time. Why do you think that Obamacare has its trenches or has its roots in the healthcare policies of Romney during his tenure as governor of Massachusetts? Both of these parties like to play this game where once one of theirs gets in there, the idea is good, whereas the same idea would have been seen as awful and or leading toward, insert national disaster here, if implemented by someone of the opposing party. Now, I can guarantee you, if you had a Republican come forward with this same idea and say, "Oh, well, we're going to make the minimum wage, I don't know, $10, $5," you would have had a good chunk of Republicans get on board with this. If you had had one of these corporate Democrats come out and say, we're going to try to have some jobs initiative and make it to where the minimum wage is $6, $7, it would have been the same thing with Democrats backing this. They play by party rules. And what I find so amusing is that a lot of these anchors are known Hillary supporters or Trump backers. Obviously, diametrically opposed to the ideology of Sanders and other progressives, but yet they expect him and I guess people who are similarly minded to actually take into consideration what they're espousing. Ask yourself this: if you know someone is opposed to what you're doing, why would you take their advice? What would be the reason for that? I can't think of anything. Um, but yeah, it's an idea that I think has a lot of merit in decency. Unfortunately, it will be labeled as socialistic, which has become some kind of scare word. A lot of people seem to think that capitalism is this flawless system that everyone's been allowed to thrive under when that's been proven to be anything but the case. And it just becomes such a chore to turn the TV on and have these anchors who, won't discuss any pressing issue of the current era. They're not talking about our relations with other countries in terms of what actually matters or the continued wealth, how to, okay, well, that's not relevant to this. I'll check it out later. But they're continuing to perpetuate this idea that the only things that matter are making claims of statistics of how the economy is improving, in spite of the fact that we still have people who are unemployed, in addition to the middle class shrinking. And I guess what it's so problematic is that as they're speaking, there is a vested interest in making one party look better than the other. So, a lot of these conservative talk shows and a lot of these establishment ones to an extent are going around and saying, oh, the Democrats are obstructionist, which they are. But they're acting as if the last 2, 3, 4 years didn't happen where the Republicans had a majority in both chambers and were acting in a similar manner to the Democrats. And look, I don't think it's right to bash something just because it's by the other party, as I said earlier in this, but they're continuing that idea themselves when they hear a proposal from someone that they oppose unapologetically over everything he does while not offering any solutions themselves. And this is a running theme you'll see in many of the opposition that mounts against the ideas, such as the one that Sanders put out. Again, we don't have any direct um, verification of how much this is going to cost and what ways, what it has been ironed out. And already you're saying, no, this could never work. This is impossible. And that's all they know to do. But you know what you won't see on that television? How to improve this idea, how to come up with something that is alternative. There's no creativity on the part of any of these anchors, any of these commentators. All they're there to do is talk trash for 3 to 5 minutes in between commercials and get you to become convinced that you must live in a system of complacency that tells you, hey, sorry you worked your entire life. People who, happen to be the son and grandson of someone that was able to benefit from the tax cuts of both Presidents Bush and Trump can live in a prosperous life. But you, the person who worked 9 to 5 for 30 to 40 years, well, you're just gonna have to settle with, maybe getting a couple of hundred thousands, and even having that taken away while the upper class is able to pay less and earn more and have more to begin with. But that's their idea of fairness in the U.S. And that system again is perpetuated by both parties. But it's only when you have someone that recognizes that they come under such intense scrutiny and opposition from both sides. A united front against the one man trying to make a difference.